It started with a knock on the door, loud, unexpected, and way too familiar. Standing there were two police officers again. "We got a call from your HOA," one of them said. "The thing is, I don't even have an HOA, or at least I'm not part of one." But somehow, that didn't stop the homeowners association from trying to control what I did on my own lakeside property. They claimed I was breaking rules I never agreed to, and it wasn't just one visit. They sent the cops 3 different times. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe a mix-up with addresses, or someone just being a nosy neighbor. But the more it happened, the clearer it became. They were targeting me on purpose. No warnings, no real explanations, just constant harassment and pressure to comply with rules I never signed up for. I live on a quiet lake, far from gated communities and their drama. So why were they so desperate to control my land? And who gave them the power to call the police over things like a parked truck or a fire pit? That's when I decided I'd had enough. I wasn't just going to take it, I was going to fight back. And what happened next? Well, let's just say they never saw that court ruling coming. I bought this lakeside property a few years ago. It was supposed to be peaceful, my little escape from the noise. There was no mention of a homeowners association when I closed on the place. No monthly dues, no CC/and Rs, nothing in the deed. Just a small home, a view of the water and freedom. Or so I thought. The first visit from the cops caught me off guard. They said someone from the local HOA had reported me for unauthorized exterior changes. I had just repainted my deck. Harmless, right? I explained I wasn't in the HOA, showed them my documents, and they left. I figured that was the end of it. But a week later, it happened again. This time over a fire pit I'd had for years. Again, they mentioned the HOA. I kept asking, which HOA? I'm not in one. But no one had a straight answer. It felt like I was being dragged into something I never signed up for. Then came the third time. The officer looked just as confused as I was. "They keep filing complaints," he said. "It's unusual." That word stuck with me, unusual. I started digging. Property maps, legal filings, even knocking on neighbors' doors. And that's when I found something buried deep in the county records, something they didn't want me to see. In the county records, I found something strange, an old filing from nearly 20 years ago. It showed an HOA map that included my property, but here's the kicker. That map had been changed years later to remove my lot. It looked like someone had updated the boundaries, officially excluding my home from the association. So why were they still coming after me? I started talking to other neighbors. Some had been dealing with the same kind of nonsense, random letters, threats of fines, even warnings about yard decorations. A few of them didn't even know if they were members or not. The lines were that blurry. One older couple down the road told me they'd been paying dues for years, even though they'd never signed any paperwork. It was becoming clear. This HOA was acting like it had way more power than it actually did, and they were counting on people not pushing back. Then I got a letter, hand-delivered. It wasn't from the police this time. It was from the HOA board president. It said I had 14 days to correct violations or face legal action. No mention of what those violations were, just threats. I felt like I was being bullied off my own land. But why me? Why now? And how far were they really willing to go to keep control? After that letter, things got weird, fast. I started noticing cars I didn't recognize parked near the edge of my property. A drone buzzed over my backyard one morning while I was having coffee. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid, but then I caught someone actually taking pictures of my house from the road. When I stepped outside, they sped off. That's when I knew this wasn't just some paperwork mix-up. It felt personal, and I wasn't the only one getting watched. A neighbor told me his mailbox had been tampered with after he refused to pay his annual dues. Another family quietly moved out after months of dealing with fines and threats, never even listed their house, just gone. It was becoming clear. This HOA was acting like it had way more power than it actually did, and they were counting on people not pushing back. Then I got a letter, hand-delivered. It wasn't from the police this time. It was from the HOA board president. It said I had 14 days to correct violations or face legal action. No mention of what those violations were, just threats. I felt like I was being bullied off my own land. But why me? Why now? And how far were they really willing to go to keep control? That's when I knew this wasn't just some paperwork mix-up. It felt personal, and I wasn't the only one getting watched. A neighbor told me his mailbox had been tampered with after he refused to pay his annual dues. Another family quietly moved out after months of dealing with fines and threats, never even listed their house, just gone. I started keeping records. Every letter, every visit, every strange encounter. I put up cameras, filed complaints, and tried getting answers from the county office. But every time I brought up that HOA's actions, officials acted like their hands were tied. Then came the notice taped to my front door, a formal notice of line intent from the HOA's attorney, claiming I owed thousands for rule violations, lawn upkeep, and administrative fees. If I didn't pay, they threatened to put a lion on my property. That was it. I wasn't just defending my land anymore. I was fighting to keep my home, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. Right, when I thought the lion threat was the worst of it, I got a call from a real estate agent I'd never spoken to. She said she heard my property might be going up for forced compliance sale and wanted to talk before it hit the market. My stomach dropped. I told her there had to be a mistake, but she casually mentioned she'd worked with this HOA before and that they've done this kind of thing before. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about rules or dues. This looked like a setup. Targeting non-members, pushing legal threats, and trying to force sales. Suddenly, I wasn't just dealing with a power-hungry board. I was possibly dealing with people trying to profit off of fear and confusion. I went back into the records and dug deeper, this time looking at previous owners of properties around the lake. A pattern started to appear. Quiet sales, disputed lines, families that disappeared from the area without so much as a word. It was like a hidden trail of intimidation that no one had bothered to piece together, until now. And the craziest part, one of the names listed on an old HOA leadership document matched the name of a county clerk, someone who might have had the power to change maps, delay filings, or bury complaints. I wasn't just in a property dispute anymore. I might have stumbled into something way bigger. I knew I had to act fast, so I took everything I had, every document, every recorded visit, every strange encounter, and hired a lawyer. It wasn't cheap, but I wasn't going to let them take my home. We filed a lawsuit against the HOA, challenging their authority and their tactics. It felt like David versus Goliath, but I wasn't backing down. My lawyer dug into the HOA's paperwork, looking for any holes, any violations, and that's when we hit the jackpot. Turns out, the HOA have been operating illegally for years. They didn't have the proper legal filings, the right permits, or even the full membership base they claimed to have. They had been threatening and intimidating homeowners based on nothing more than their own twisted agenda. But we didn't stop there. We pushed even harder. The day of the court hearing arrived, and the HOA's lawyer walked in with a smug look on his face. He probably thought I'd buckle under pressure, but I was ready. My lawyer and I laid out the evidence, everything from the falsified documents to the intimidation tactics, and the judge was stunned. It didn't take long for the HOA's case to unravel. We won. But just when I thought it was over, the final twist hit. As the judge read the ruling, I noticed the HOA president sitting in the back, scribbling something on a piece of paper. Moments later, I got a call from the county sheriff. They had just discovered a hidden account tied to the HOA, one filled with money that wasn't just from membership fees. It was a secret slush fund used for illegal payoffs and under-the-table deals. The HOA didn't just lose that day. They were about to be exposed for a much bigger scandal. And the best part, that smug lawyer, He was on their payroll the whole time. The real fight wasn't just about my property, it was about bringing down a corrupt system, and I had just started.